Welcome to another episode of TaskHuman Talks. I am your host and wellness provider, Jamie Carroll. Today, we've got one of our spiritual wellness coaches, Robyn Augusta. Robyn, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me and inviting me to do this. It's a great opportunity to talk about all the things that I love to talk about.
Yes.
Spirit, religion, human connectedness, all of those things. So great.
Yay. I want to dive right into something that I found on your website, a quote that you had on there. You say, intimate connection to spirit is your birthright. Intimate connection to spirit is your birthright. And that really caught my eye. And I want to ask you, what more can you say about this? I feel like it's going to lead us right into what we're going to talk about today. So what else can you say about that quote?
Okay, well, thank you for going to my website. So intimate connection to spirit is your birthright is something that anyone who's been around me and worked with me for years knows that this has been my mantra. And the reason being is, as someone who, has been a spiritual explorer my entire life, and I've been in all the different realms, and then I took myself to seminary, and I'm seminary graduate, and all of these fancy things. And so much of it is outside of ourselves. And so intimate spirit to connection is our birthright. I find that all humans are craving some form of connection and meaning making. And if we start right with spirit, the word spirit. Now, it has a lot of different meanings to it, but the word spirit, or a lot of different usages, I shall say, but the word spirit comes from Latin. It's in spiritus. So it's breath, to breathe. And so it's as simple as that. That is the essence of life that moves through us. And so if we can connect to that and explore ourselves through that and remember that something that we are seeking externally is really right there flowing through us every moment. The meaning of life is moving through us all the time. So just by being alive, we are spiritual beings because we have the spirit of life moving through us. And so sometimes my work is not so fancy. It's just simply allowing people or leading them back to connect with that awareness, that the gracious thing that they can worship is sometimes just their own breath and their own divinity. So, yeah, simple, right?
So simple, and I love it because not only is it simple, but I feel like it's such a great reminder because the more chaotic our lives can become, I feel like the more we push through and strive for something, and then the more we fall away from that intentional, conscious breath.
Yes.
And
and in this world, people say, "Oh, take a deep breath." We're always breathing; it's happening all the time.
Yeah.
But are we conscious of it? That's the first step. Are we conscious of it? And then are we appreciative of it? Are we understanding that we are all connected through this breath? I mean, I'm connected to the trees. It's just this intimate connection. So we all think about isolation in our own spiritual journey, but think about this. If a dog barks around the corner, it rattles the inside of my head, in my ears, and then I hear it. The breath, the trees move. I mean, we are all so connected. And the breath is this wonderful, great reminder of the divinity that is ever pervasive.
Yes, absolutely. And you're helping people find this connection to spirit. How are you helping people find it? And I want to say find it in quotes.
Right, find it, whatever it is. Well, let's just start with the word it. It has many different meanings. And so when I first start working with anyone, no matter who it is, there's a reason that they came. There's a reason that they arrived, or there's a reason that the capacity that person and I are working together. And the first thing is to find out who they are and where they are, what's going on in that moment. And usually that will be the beginning of a relationship of finding it. So it's questions, who are you? Where do you derive joy? Where is it that you make meaning? What is it that you value? How are you feeling in this moment? So working with questions that allow me to find out where the person is, who they are, what language that speaks to them, and meeting them there. And then oftentimes, we have a long journey to come right back to themselves. It's sometimes we have to go out and we have to use all of these different tools and rituals and scriptures and all these different things. And ultimately, my hope is that they will remember themselves as a divine, unique expression of creation. And there's nothing more spiritual or religious or sacred than recognizing and understanding the truth of who each individual is.
That's so beautiful. I still hear myself echoing in the background, so I'm just going to apologize to you guys if you hear that going on. We're having spirits connecting with us during this time, during this podcast interview today on the full moon lunar eclipse. What can you do?
Stop and howl, right?
Yeah. I want to jump into religion versus spirituality. What's the difference?
What is the difference?
Yeah.
Woo! That's a big question. But I have to kind of start with exactly what I talk with people a lot of times. They'll say, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. And sometimes that is a very well thought out process and a very honest, well expressed exploration and answer. Other times it's just simply that, religion is getting a really bad rap. There's a lot of bad rap out there for religion, so people don't want to be associated with it. But again, I believe that all of us are innately spiritual. We have breath, we have spirit moving through us. We're innately spiritual. And for as long as human, has been around and documenting their experience, they have been documenting and trying to make meaning of this awesome experience called life. We're meaning-making machines. We want to make meaning. So if you go to one of the popular religious texts, the Bible, and you go to the Hebrew scriptures, there's this beautiful chapter in there called Genesis, the creation. It starts in the beginning. And to me, it's a story of awe and wonder, how humans are trying to make sense of something that is so awesome and so wonderful and just evokes all of these human emotions. They're trying to make meaning out of it. Buddha, the Buddhist, he was trying to make meaning out of suffering and aging and sickness. And out of that, we've derived compassion, which is a human response acted out. And so the Hindu deities are just developed ways in which people are studying individual aspects of the human experience. Hanuman is a warrior. Kali is a wrathful. So they're just expressing the human experience. So in all of the religious text, I believe that it is just a way for people to make meaning out of the human experience. And then it leads us to the spiritual. So the spiritual, when people say I'm spiritual, perhaps they have done that work to understand that the word religion comes from the Latin form of regale, and the word is to. So you're bound to a collection of beliefs, or you're bound to God. That's all the word religion means, broken down. And then we have a lot of other human stuff we've developed that goes in there. But religion, to be bound to something. And so spirit is breath, to breathe in. So when someone is interested in being spiritual, maybe they're just really consciously aware of the life that moves through them, or they're consciously aware of how they are connecting, or they're seekers and explorers to find something that is going to connect them to something. I don't think that, I don't have any attachment to spiritual versus religious is right or wrong. It's just the way that an individual will describe themselves. And oftentimes, the joke is in their spiritual practices, they are very religious because they are bound to them. So someone can say, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. I do breathing work and meditation, and I go to yoga and I chant on the full moon or whatever it is, and I have my mantras. and I do it regularly every single day, I'm like, well, that would be a collection of beliefs that make meaning for you that you do routinely, which would be religiously.
I love that, because when you were saying that, that's something that I always say. I'm like, I'm spiritual and not religious.
Right. I know. And it's like, who cares?
I know.
That gets a lot of traction, right?
Well, I love that I had a friend say to me the other day, because I'm very, I'm sober, right? So I'm in sobriety. So I'm like black, white, no alcohol, or it was a crap ton of alcohol. Not religious, just spiritual. You know what I mean? But there's like the gray area, and I like how you brought up that having a spiritual practice, you can be religious in that spiritual practice and what you're doing to honor
right
or whatever. Yeah.
And so I believe that just, now there are going to be people that disagree with me a lot. Yeah. I went to seminary and I had them in the same classroom with me. I had professors. Right. But it is a collection of beliefs.
Yeah.
That's it. It's a collection of beliefs, and you can be very bound to it, and it works for you. And you derive great meaning and joy from those beliefs, those rituals that go along with the beliefs. Like, it can be very fulfilling and meaningful. And so could taking a walk in nature and being awed and wondered. I was in Utah recently, and I saw the earth, the land that is millions of years old, and dinosaur prints that could be anywhere from 300 to 600 million years old. And I was in awe. And I can imagine that those ancients that stood before me, they also were in awe. And my journal might have been, a gospel according to.
Yeah. Absolutely. And for people, or for those of us rather, wanting to seek more of a spiritual practice, have more of a spiritual connection or practice, I guess, how do we begin that? What do we do?
Okay. How do you begin? I think everybody begins where they are. So just asking yourself these questions.
Okay.
Where is it that I derive meaning? What do I value? How do I experience joy? And what am I connected to? And those answers, in truth, will really reveal a lot. And it may be the questions then are answered by finding somebody to equip you. It's no different. If I'd like to, work on a certain body part, and I want to gain muscle in a certain area, well, then I will have that experience with myself and that honest, truthful conversation. And I will say, well, this is what I'd like to do, or I'd like to get sober or eat a different way. On TaskHuman, there's a million coaches. I would then identify somebody who has the tools that would help me with that specific area. But the first step is identifying what it truly is that you desire. And then from there, it can be a long journey to just hopefully come right back home to yourself.
Do people have to be spiritual to work with you?
Well, that's a trick question, right? As you asked me earlier about it, spiritual connection. No, I don't think that people have to be conscious of their spirituality to work with me, but I think just because they have breath moving through them and they're alive, they are spiritual beings. So
right. Well, sometimes people might say, I'm not spiritual, I'm not religious at all.
Right.
Maybe I want to find a different meaning, or I want to have meaning in life, but I don't relate to those words necessarily.
Right. Exactly.
Some people may have confusion around what that even means to them, so yeah.
Well, when I was working as a hospice chaplain, I would walk into a situation and I had no idea who was on the other side of that situation and what I was walking into. And some people at the end of their lives, they are very spiritual, some are very religious, And we would just, and some were like, you're the chaplain. I don't want to talk about God. Don't bring Jesus in this room. No, 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 no. I'd say, okay, well, tell me about your life. Tell me about the life that you are living now and the life that you've lived. And tell me and explain to me and express to me what areas of your life you believe that you would like to focus and have attention on. And then we can start there. So it doesn't have to be one gentleman, and one of the best days of his life that he could remember having was sitting on the back of his deck, having a beer with his son and a barbecue. And then something happened that evening and he was no longer able to do that any longer. And that is where I came in. And so he was not religious. He wasn't spiritual. He did not want to talk about God, none of that stuff. But I went, and his son came with a 6-pack of beer. And in the final hours of his functioning life, he was able to have a beer on the back deck and laugh and enjoy himself. And there was joy, and he was connected to a moment that was experienced in his life that was joyful, and he was connected to his son, and he felt at peace. So I think that meeting people where they are and holding a space that is as broad as the human experience is, that is the most religious, the most sacred, the most profound and intimate work that anyone can walk alongside someone else with. So
I love that. Wow, that story almost made me cry. That was really beautiful. But it's true. Everyone is spiritual. We all have that spirituality innately within us. So I love the work that you're doing. I think it's really important. And right now during COVID, we're up to like almost 9 months of this going on, and people are feeling isolated and lonely. What do you have any ways that we can cultivate deeper soulful connections during this time of isolation?
Yes.
And the unknown, really, as well.
It's a really, this year in so many capacities, but the heightened awareness of isolation and loneliness has just brought out all of our suffering for us to see it, experience collectively and individually. And so my experience of the people that I've been working with through this very challenging time, first of all, to be with themselves in a way that is tender and compassionate and truthful, and explore that, I don't like to be alone. I can be alone and I can feel isolated, and I can do that. But in the normal life, the way that I was living prior to this situation, I would then engage. I would no longer sit with the discomfort of that loneliness to even unpack it long enough to find out where it comes from. I would just discharge it by connecting with people. And so sitting with that and being with that, as uncomfortable as it can be, I think is the first step to healing. Now, after that, I also want to say very clearly that if somebody then needs mental health help and assistance, or they need a prescription or proper medication, that is something that is a tool. I believe there's God and spirit in all things, so it's not like you're not religious or there's some shame if you reach for help in that way. That is a necessity, and that's a truthful engagement with the truth of where someone is and how can they be their best assistance, asking for help. So that's number one. And then the other thing is I always encourage people to write down their discomfort. What is it that has them feeling the way that they're feeling? And then we can meet in that place. And then there's tools. How do we utilize the tools if we want to get out of the discomfort? First of all, sometimes people don't want to get out of the discomfort. It's hard work.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard work. So it's easier to be uncomfortable and to just be uncomfortable. But if the isolation is lasting, how uncomfortable are you going to be? And do you want help? And if you'd like help, well, then there are a myriad of ways that you can help. You can get help and receive help. And they could be from a movement practice to, broaden your awareness of things and tools that you can reach out from your home virtually or technologically, or, whatever books it is, or podcast or audio learning or listening, or ways to do it, or how is it that you can connect in a safe way? And what are the safety steps that you can do? So coming to the truth of what's actually going on and being there long enough to be able to understand what the need and the desire is the first step. And then the next steps come on top of that. In this COVID, I am not unaware of the suffering. I am aware of it. However, it has illuminated an opportunity for creativity, for deep transformative work to happen, for identifying authentic needs and desires and bringing them to the forefront so they can actually be addressed in someone's life, collectively and individually. So even God in COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was I just going to say? It sounds like it's an opportunity for us. It can be an opportunity for us. And then when we're able to sit in that discomfort, right, and it is hard work, then
Right.
We're creating a deeper connection just with ourselves too, which so many of us don't want to do.
Yes. And again, I'm not being, I'm not spiritualizing the human condition of suffering.
Right.
That can be done. I'm not doing that. I'm saying once identified that there's a need, let's be proactive and identify steps that we can take that can get the proper and the appropriate help for that. There's assistance in so many different ways. So how is it that assistance can be had? And sometimes people are in that, that hole. And it's just having somebody, go down in the hole with them, hear what it is that they're truly saying, and then together get themselves out of it. Yeah, that's my thought.
That's great. So is there anything else? I know we're going to go into a breath work of sorts, and we're going to kind of, at the end, tie all this back into that first quote, the intimate connection to spirit is your birthright, which I think is going to be really great. Is there anything else that you want to share, with ways that you're working with people spiritually via TaskHuman?
Via TaskHuman. Well, I'm a spiritual wellness coach, and I believe under my title, it talks, there's a button. I love this button. It says virtue. And I was really challenged at first, like, virtue. Okay, what are we doing with virtue? Virtue has, there's a lot of judgment around that. And oftentimes judgment with virtue is, it's based on our morals and our values and our belief systems, and they're very binary: good, bad, right, wrong. And what I really love about, if someone were to call me up, and I haven't had that yet, I'm hoping, please call me and ask me about virtue so we can talk about it. Because again, it is, where do you derive your values? Where do you derive your morals? Where do you derive what you consider right or wrong? Where do your judgments come from? They often come from our, our social backgrounds, our cultural backgrounds, our religious backgrounds, our familial backgrounds, based on past experiences or based on desires of future goals. And so when someone is able to talk to me about virtue, I get an opportunity to learn a whole lot about them. And then help them live a life that would be in alignment with what they have decided their values and morals and ethics are. And there's nothing more virtuous, right, than somebody living in alignment with their truth. Yeah. So that's the work I do. It starts with getting to know the person. As a chaplain, it was really wonderful. And as a Christian pastor, we have the Gospel of John, the Gospel of Mark, Luke, and the whole thing, right? But I always say, let's start with the Gospel of Jamie. Who are you? And when you tell me who you are, I'm deeply listening. And from there, I'm then going to start a journey of exploration to help you kind of explore what you answer. And that is like the richest soil for like growth, right? To become fully aware of consciously of who we are, how we are, and why we are. So
yes, I love that. During this time, it really is a great time to explore that.
it is.
Right now. Yeah, it really
I've been
is.
challenged. I have to tell you. So I've been challenged. I was so against virtual work. I was really, being an embodiment person and empathic and feeling all this. I thought, oh, it has to be in person, in person, in person. So COVID has forced me to get out of my comfort zone and to really dig down deep, like, well, what is it that I'm uncomfortable about? And that was some truth telling to myself. I'm getting older. I don't want the camera on my face. Like those kinds of. It sounds so silly, but they're real. And without shaming myself, I had to just embrace my reality of my aging, and things like that. So it's a great opportunity for us to all grow and then have a lot of fun with it. We're just human.
Yeah, we might as well now too, with lockdowns going on again. I mean, have a little fun with our lives and, learn a little bit about ourselves and why we do the things we do so we can, get to where we want to go in life. By truly understanding that.
Right? There's nothing more fascinating or sacred than studying of you. You are the deity to worship. Like, let's study you. You're a divine, unique expression of God, created. So let's discover the creation of you. And through that, we can find the right places that will fit to help you with a fulfilled life. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And Robyn, one thing I love to ask people too is about their own self-care routines. So what is your spiritual self-care routine? Do you have one? Like what are some spiritual practices that you like to incorporate into your life?
Okay. Oh boy, that's fun. I breathe consciously.
Yeah.
I breathe all day long, obviously, but I'll sit down and I'll do some breath work and I'll just catch my own breath and breathe. And we'll do this in a few minutes. I'll just take you through what I do with myself, just to be aware of myself. And that grounds me. Sometimes I'm outside of myself, so I have to bring myself back in by awareness that I'm in here. I'm in here. That's the first thing. The other thing is I do something called nonlinear movement, which is an embodiment thing. And so much of the work that I do is intellectual. And we are an intellectually, neurologically overstimulated society and culture. And I drop out of my head and I come down into my body. The body is filled with the wisdom. We were created with senses and sensibilities and emotions. And sometimes we intellectualize everything because we're trying to make meaning of it, but we're not feeling it fully. So I have an embodiment practice that I do very, very regularly, and it brings me online. And what I mean by online is in real time. If I'm having something, here's a quick little scenario of that. If I'm out about and I'm having a something and somebody says something that doesn't land right on me, I'm able to just feel it and appropriately respond to it rather than go home, and driving home, it starts to ruminate, and then I start to talk about it and this and that. So being online in real time, I can feel my emotions and know that there's wisdom in there, and pay attention to what my body's saying, thinking, feeling, and experiencing. So that's a constant practice for me, is embodiment and experiencing what's going on down there.
Yeah, that's great too. So if we are experiencing something like that, when we're in a situation and someone says something that triggers us or we don't like, just pausing to pay attention to how it's showing up.
Or sometimes it's not even a pause. It's like, that doesn't feel right. I went to long story. I went to a doctor, and I was taught to be appropriate. And I'm in a doctor's office. It's the first visit, and it doesn't feel right in there. And so then the doctor came in, and as a woman, I was, waist down, the drill. And I didn't feel comfortable. Now, I'm a woman in my late 50s, so I've been to a lot of those visits, but something didn't resonate with me. The doctor came in, and I did not feel safe. I did not feel comfortable. I have no idea. And I just said, you know what? You're not my doctor. He said, excuse me? And it was not confrontational. I just said, I'm sorry I've wasted your time, but this is not my office. This is not my practice. You're not my doctor. Please leave. I'm going to get up and get dressed now. And I walked out, and I wasn't confrontational or anything. I mean, it seemed confrontational, but I was true to what was going on in my body. My body has wisdom, and I listen to it. That has, it's been a transformative practice for me. Regular body work, every day, some kind of moving what I feel, de-shaming. The world is angry right now. There's a lot of anger in the world. And if I were to say to you, Jamie, you're angry, you would maybe say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. There's a shame around being angry. Yeah. But if I were sitting next to you and you were smoking cigarettes, I would be getting your secondhand smoke. But the world right now is angry and in a lot of chaos, chaotic energy is around. So why not just, get rid of some of those, have some anger release techniques or something like that to get rid of some of that on a regular basis. So it may not be mine. It may be the person's next to me. It may be somebody on social media that I scrolled. But if I'm regularly doing it, I'm regularly moving these things through me, then I'm more in alignment with the truth of who I am and how I'm feeling. Just like we brush our teeth every day, not because we have cavities, but because we're preventing them.
I love that. And just like this is part of the nonlinear movement work that you do, and you do that with clients as well.
I do that with clients. Most of my spiritual direction clients, we have an embodiment piece. After we get that conversation going, I'll ask them, how's your breath? What's going on in your body? How are you feeling? And giving them a tool to practice how to articulate how they're actually feeling, what's really going on in there. It could be presenting as anger and frustration, and underneath of it, it's grief.
Yeah.
It's sadness. It's loneliness. It's fear. So that's that.
That's great. I love that. And I want to go into the breath work next.
Okay.
And, I know you've got a little technique or something that you're going to show us and how we can consciously do this breath work. So
okay, well, not fancy, available to everybody who's breathing, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to invite you and anyone who's listening to close your eyes if you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, just soften your gaze and find a comfortable way to sit in the chair and connect your feet to the floor. And then just feel the chair that you're seated in. And just relax your body into that chair. Feel your feet on the floor. And now bring your hands and let them rest on your belly. And start to feel the breath that's already there. Without altering it, there may be a desire to take a deep breath or to exhale. Just feel the breath that's already there. And notice if there's any tension or any tightness in the body, and relax a little bit into that. And consciously be aware of your breath. And notice if you have a longer inhale or a shorter exhale. And just notice. And now consciously take a deep breath through your inhaling, your nose, your mouth, whatever's comfortable in any way. Just take that breath in. And then just softly relax and let it go. And then one more breath in. And then let that breath go. Relax into the chair. If there's any muscles in the body, even in the buttocks holding you up, just relax. Know that you're supported. The floor is supporting you. The chair is supporting you. And even let your shoulders relax and your back kind of like press into the chair. Noticing the breath. And then think of one word that would describe how you're feeling in this moment. And notice the texture of your breath. If it feels cool as it comes in, if the breath is tight, structured. And then bring one hand to your heart. And feeling the breath move through your body. And notice if there's a word, a feeling, a sensation that would describe the environment of your heart at the moment. And just be with that. Notice your breath. Notice if you have more inhales, exhales, if the breath feels cool, warm. And one more breath consciously now. You're going to participate fully, taking a deep breath in, and then hold that breath until the urge arises to let it go, and then let it go. And then do that again. Take the breath in, and at the top of the inhale, when you're completely full, hold that breath. And just experience what comes up for you. And then let it go. And one more time. This time you're going to breathe in. And then as soon as you get full, you're going to exhale completely and totally until you're completely empty and there's no breath left in there. And experience what that emptiness feels like. And then let the hand come from your heart and join the belly. Take a deep breath in. Audibly let go. And just be with yourself without altering the breath pattern that will naturally arise. Allowing your breath to just come back into the pattern that it desires. And experience what's going on. Could be a word, a story, a sensation. Just be with whatever is there. And then slowly tuck your chin and maybe a soft bow of the head. And then whatever way you would like to thank your body, whether it's a hands namaste or just a quiet thanking to yourself, just take a moment and honor the wisdom that resides in the divinity of you. And then open your eyes. So, I don't know, you can answer for me. Do you have a little bit, do you have a little information on how you're doing?
I feel great. I felt really calm. That was my word that came immediately.
You don't even have to, I was gonna say, you don't even have to answer. I'm just asking if you have information about yourself.
Absolutely. And one of the things I noticed too was where I was holding, paying attention to my body too, which I'm sure everyone else out there as well, if you guys practice this with us. I noticed where I was holding and sending breath, and totally a ton of information. That was great.
Good.
Yeah.
And so we are divinely created. We are unique expressions of God, each and every one of us. And there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of information that we can tap into within ourselves, and it'll give us a nice starting point to then explore outside of ourselves for enhancement and enrichment to what we can find within. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Robyn. Thank you for joining me today. And to anyone out there, if you are ready to live your life in alignment with your truth, you said that, Robyn, and I love it. If you're ready to live your life in alignment with your truth, if you're ready to feel your emotions and discover more about yourself, and make sure you reach out to Robyn via our TaskHuman app. As you can tell, she's going to be an amazing woman to work with during this time and throughout any time in your life. So thanks again, Robyn.
Oh, it has been my joy. Thank you so much for this space to talk about what I love the most, human beings. One last thing I like to say is, studying yourself as a human and your humanness is a spiritual practice.
Absolutely.
Right?
I love that.
So, peace.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you guys for joining us, and I'll see you next time. Bye.